Pause. Stop scrolling. Put the phone down for 10 seconds, because what I'm about to lay on the table right now is going to rearrange the entire Megan Thee Stallion versus Klay Thompson narrative inside your head. You came here thinking this was a cheating story. You came here thinking this was a heartbreak story. You came here thinking this was another black woman crying in public while another black man fumbled the bag of the decade. I'm telling you, on everything sacred, that is not the story. The story you've been fed is a decoy. The real story is buried 6 feet under a podcast nobody is talking about, a basketball player nobody is defending, and a woman whose name has been screamed into oblivion by the very same people swearing up and down they exist to protect black women. Her name is Lexie Brown. And by the time I'm done with this video, you're going to understand that Megan Thee Stallion's biggest victim in this entire saga is not Megan Thee Stallion. It's the woman the internet decided to crucify in her place. Now, let me back up, because I see the comments already loading. What are you talking about? Megan got cheated on. Megan got dragged through the mud. Megan deserves every flower. Okay. I hear you. And listen, before anybody clips this video and sends it to their group chat with the caption, "This man hates black women," let me say this plain. Cheating is wrong. Infidelity is wrong. If Klay Thompson did half of what Megan accused him of doing, then yeah, the man is a clown, the man is a coward, the man deserves to eat the dust of every wing he ever fumbled. I'm not here to defend Klay Thompson. I'm not on Klay Thompson's payroll. Klay Thompson can fall off a yacht for all I care. That's not the conversation. The conversation is what happened the moment Megan posted that Instagram story. The conversation is what happened in the 48 hours after she pressed that little blue arrow and sent her pain into the algorithm. Because what happened next is the actual scandal, and nobody, and I mean nobody, has the spine to say it out loud. So I will. Megan Thee Stallion did not just expose Klay Thompson. Megan Thee Stallion lit a fuse. And when that fuse went off, it didn't blow up in Klay's face. It blew up in the face of a black woman who never even met him outside of a basketball court. It blew up in the face of a 31-year-old WNBA role player who plays for the Seattle Storm, who makes a fraction of what Megan makes in a single hot girl summer tour stop, who is just out here trying to build a podcast and stretch her career into something that survives past the league. And the internet, the same internet that swears up and down it exists to protect black women, decided that this woman, Lexie Brown, was guilty without evidence, without trial, without even a name being publicly dropped by Megan herself. All because of one unfollow. One unfollow on Instagram. That was the trial. That was the verdict. That was the sentence. And the executioner was a parasocial mob who confused defending Megan Thee Stallion with destroying every other black woman in the vicinity. So when y'all ask me why I don't trust the way the internet performs feminism, why I don't trust the way the internet performs sisterhood, why I don't trust the way the internet performs this whole, protect black women, chant, this right here is the receipt. This right here is the smoking gun. Because the same army of accounts crying tears for Megan Thee Stallion is the same army of accounts that just helped chase another black woman out of her own podcast, out of her own career opportunity, out of her own peace of mind. And the kicker, the part that has me up at night, the part that should have you mad too, is that Megan Thee Stallion saw it happen. Megan Thee Stallion watched it happen. And Megan Thee Stallion said nothing. Let's rewind the tape. Let's go to the source. Megan goes on Instagram and she lets it rip. She writes, and I'm quoting now, "Cheating, had me around your whole family playing house, got cold feet, holding you down through all your horrible mood swings and treatment towards me during your basketball season. Now you don't know if you can be monogamous. B, I need a real break after this one. Bye y'all." That's the post. That's the whole post. Now I want you to look at that post with me, line by line, because there's something missing from it. You see it? You see what's not there? A name. There is no name in that post. Megan did not say Klay slept with so and so. Megan did not say Klay slept with this specific WNBA player. Megan did not say Klay slept with anyone in particular. She said he cheated. She said he had cold feet. She said he wasn't sure if he could be monogamous. That is it. That is the entire receipt. And from that single Instagram story with 0 names attached, the internet went into full bloodhound mode and decided, with absolutely no evidence whatsoever, that the secret third character in this telenovela had to be Lexie Brown. Why? Why Lexie Brown? What divine revelation pointed at her? I'll tell you. An unfollow. That's it. An unfollow. Lexie Brown and Klay Thompson, 2 professional basketball players who play in the same league system, who probably cross paths at all-star weekends and charity games, who probably share 100 mutual friends on Instagram, unfollowed each other around the same week Megan dropped her post. And from that one digital twitch, that one tiny social media gesture, the entire internet decided that this woman was the homewrecker. Y'all hear me? An unfollow. That was the evidence. That was the entire case. There was no DM screenshot. There was no hotel receipt. There was no grainy paparazzi photo of 2 people sneaking into a parking garage. There was an unfollow. And on the strength of that unfollow, an entire mob descended on Lexie Brown's comments, her DMs, her mentions, her podcast, her sponsorships, her livelihood, and tried to set the woman's career on fire. Now let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself when you answer this. If this had been a white woman accused with the same flimsy evidence, would the conversation be the same? If this had been Taylor Swift's unfollow that lit the fuse, would the army of feminist accounts have shown up with pitchforks and gasoline? You and I both know the answer. You and I both know the answer is no. There would have been 1,000 think pieces about how we can't assume things. There would have been 1,000 think pieces about how women have to protect women. There would have been 1,000 think pieces about cyberbullying and digital lynch mobs and the toxicity of stan culture. But because it was Lexie Brown, a black woman who isn't famous enough to have a defense lawyer in the cultural court of public opinion, the rules suddenly changed. Suddenly it was open season. Suddenly the Protect Black Women alarm went on mute. Suddenly the sisterhood took a coffee break. And here we are. Now let's talk about what Lexie Brown actually did, because this is the part that crushes me. Lexie Brown, instead of running, instead of hiding, instead of going dark, did the bravest thing anybody in this whole sorry mess has done. She got on camera. She looked into the lens. She said, and I'm paraphrasing now because the woman's words deserve more weight than my paraphrase, but she said, listen, I know Klay because we both play basketball. We were friendly. We were colleagues. I do not know Megan Thee Stallion at all. And I am the only person in this entire situation who has come out, publicly, on the record, and said this is 100% false. And the fact that I'm out here defending my own name, alone, with no help from Klay, no help from Megan, no help from the so-called sisterhood, is something I am literally struggling to process. Imagine that. Imagine being the most innocent person in a story and also being the most attacked person in the story. Imagine your face being plastered all over comment sections you didn't ask to be in. Imagine your career, the one you've worked your whole adult life for, getting set on fire because 2 famous people who don't even know you decided to drag their relationship into public. Imagine knowing that the only thing standing between you and total professional destruction is your own voice, and your own voice alone, because nobody, not the man, not the woman, not the millions of fans crying for justice, is willing to stand up and say, wait, hold on, let's not destroy this person without proof. And let me paint that scene a little tighter for you, because I do not think people understand what it actually feels like to wake up as the villain of a story you never auditioned for. Picture Lexie Brown getting ready for practice. Picture her lacing up her sneakers. Picture her grabbing her phone to check the time, the way every single one of us does 100 times a day. And picture the number on the notification icon. Not 3. Not 10. Not 100. Thousands. Picture the slide of the thumb. Picture the first comment. Picture the second. Picture the 10th. Picture the death threats. Picture the strangers digging up old photos of you and reframing them as evidence of an affair you never had. Picture friends texting you, "Hey, are you okay?" People are saying things. Picture your mother calling you. Picture your coach calling you. Picture your agent calling you. Picture the team's PR person calling you. All before lunch. All before you have even had a chance to brush your teeth. That is the morning Lexie Brown woke up to. That is the air she had to breathe before she even decided whether she was going to dignify any of it with a response. And every minute she spent thinking about how to address it, was a minute she could not spend preparing for her job, which by the way, is professional basketball, which by the way, requires a level of focus most of us cannot fathom. The mob did not just attack her name. The mob attacked her ability to do her work. The mob attacked her ability to be present in her own life. And here's where it gets darker, because the financial picture for Lexie Brown is not what it looks like on TV. People hear WNBA and they think millionaire. People hear professional athlete and they think mansion in the hills. The reality is that the average WNBA player makes a salary that would make most NBA players' breakfast tabs look like a mortgage. Lexie Brown is 31 years old. In athlete years, 31 is the back nine. She is a role player, which means she's not Caitlin Clark, she's not Angel Reese, she's not pulling down millions in endorsement deals and signature shoes. She is doing what every smart pro athlete in a non-blockbuster league does. She is building a second income. She is building a brand. She is building a media career that can carry her past the day her knees say enough. And the vehicle she chose was a podcast. A podcast called Full Circle. A podcast she co-hosted with another talented black woman, Mariah Rose, a respected sports commentator with a real audience and real reach. And the podcast wasn't some scammy little side hustle. It was sitting under iHeart's Women's Sports Network. It was a real platform. It was a real opportunity. And it was specifically designed, and I want you to underline this in your head, specifically designed to flip the script on male-dominated sports media. It was women, in sports, talking about sports, building space for other women in sports. You hear that? You hear the angle? Two black women, one a pro athlete, one a respected media voice, building a platform together to elevate women's voices in an industry that has historically chewed up and spat out women's voices. That is the platform that the internet just blew up. That is the platform that the parasocial Megan Thee Stallion army just lit on fire. Because Mariah Rose, the co-host, the one who had absolutely nothing to do with Klay Thompson, started catching strays. Started catching threats. Started catching the kind of online harassment that wakes you up at 3 in the morning wondering if you should change your locks. And Mariah Rose, being a smart businesswoman, did the math. The math said this association is no longer worth what it's costing me. The math said my safety, my brand, my mental health, my future opportunities, are more valuable than continuing to be tied to a co-host the internet has decided is the villain of a story neither of us wrote. So Mariah Rose pulled the trigger. She announced she was leaving Full Circle. And the way she announced it, the way she explained it, I want you to really sit with because it tells you exactly how messy this thing got. She said, and again I'm paraphrasing because this is a script not a transcript, but she said, look, I made this decision last week. I had the conversations I needed to have. I haven't recorded the podcast since April 14th. And then she said something that should land like a brick. She said, when I saw Lexie's name in the comments under my Megan posts, I was floored. I was shocked. I reached out to her. I asked, Girrrl, what is going on? And Lexie told me, Girrrl, it's not me. End scene. That right there. That right there is the whole movie. That right there is the part nobody is replaying. A black woman, building a black woman podcast, with another black woman, getting hate dumped on her because the internet incorrectly fingered her colleague as a side chick in a celebrity relationship she had nothing to do with. And what does the great Protect Black Women Army do? They keep stoking the fire. They keep dragging the names. They keep canceling and threatening and bullying. Until one of these black women decides she has to walk away from a black woman business opportunity to save herself. That is what protection looks like in 2026, apparently. That is what sisterhood looks like in 2026, apparently. That is what defending the honor of black women looks like in 2026, apparently. It looks like burning down a women's sports podcast so we can post another teary-eyed reaction video about Megan Thee Stallion's broken heart. I'm gonna say it again because it deserves the echo. We torched a women's sports podcast. To defend the honor of a woman who didn't even ask us to do it. Who could have stopped it with a single Instagram story and didn't. Now let me address something before the comment section starts foaming. Some of you are going to say, well, maybe Megan didn't know. Maybe Megan was too busy grieving. Maybe Megan was too busy crying. Maybe Megan was too in her bag with the new album to notice her stans were lighting up another sister. Okay. I'll grant you that for about 3 minutes. Then reality hits. This is Megan Thee Stallion. This is one of the most online artists in the game. This is a woman whose entire brand was built on Twitter, built on TikTok, built on the internet's love affair with her energy. Megan knows what her stans are doing on the internet. Megan's PR team knows what her stans are doing on the internet. Megan's manager knows. Megan's social media manager knows. The idea that everybody in Megan's orbit was simultaneously asleep during the 4-day window when Lexie Brown's name was getting blasted into orbit is a fairy tale. Megan saw it. Megan's team saw it. And Megan, for whatever reason, decided that a 5-word Instagram story like, "Please leave Lexie Brown alone, she has nothing to do with this," was too heavy a lift. 5 words. 5 words could have saved that podcast. 5 words could have saved that woman's reputation. 5 words could have saved a sister. 5 words. And we got silence instead. And silence, in a moment like this, is not neutral. Let me say that again, because the internet age has trained people to think that not saying anything is a safe move. It is not. Silence in the middle of a mob is a thumbs up. Silence in the middle of a witch hunt is a green light. Silence in the middle of a smear campaign that is benefiting your narrative is, whether you want to admit it or not, an endorsement. The fans were doing the dirty work that made Megan's pain look more justified, made her version of events look more vindicated, made the alleged side chick look more guilty by association. Every threat sent to Lexie Brown's inbox functioned as free PR for Megan's story. And the easiest, kindest, most basic act of leadership any famous person could perform in that moment, which is to say, "This is not the person, please stop," was simply not performed. Why? You'll have to ask Megan. I cannot read her mind. I will not pretend to. But I can read the receipts. And the receipts say silence. And let's not act like Megan Thee Stallion is incapable of speaking on these things. This is the same Megan Thee Stallion who, and I'm going to bring this up gently because I know how the fans get, this is the same Megan Thee Stallion who sat across from Gayle King in one of the most respected interviews in American media. And in that interview, she said some things about Tory Lanez and about the night of the shooting that she later, by her own admission, walked back. And after the interview, behind the scenes, she allegedly went on to refer to Gayle King in a manner that I'm not going to repeat on this channel, but you know the word, the one that starts with B and rhymes with witch. That happened. That's documented. That's not a rumor. And listen, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend Megan is the only person in entertainment who's had a messy moment. Everybody has had a messy moment. I have had messy moments. You have had messy moments. Your favorite auntie has had messy moments. Grace exists. Grace is real. Grace is biblical. I'm willing, on principle, to extend Megan Thee Stallion grace for the Gayle King chapter. People make mistakes. People grow. People apologize. That's not the issue. The issue is the pattern. The issue is the way the army of accounts behind Megan Thee Stallion treats the concept of protect black women as a one-way street, where only the woman with the platform gets protected, and any other black woman who happens to be in the wrong digital neighborhood at the wrong time becomes acceptable collateral damage. That is selective sisterhood. That is conditional sisterhood. That is sisterhood with a velvet rope and a guest list. And if that's what we're going to call protecting black women, then I'm sorry, I have to file an objection in the court of common sense. Because real protection doesn't pick favorites. Real protection doesn't run a popularity contest. Real protection doesn't say, I will defend you if you're rich and famous and I like your music, but if you're a 31-year-old WNBA role player who I've never heard of, well, sorry sis, you're on your own. That's not protection. That's PR. That's stan culture wearing a sisterhood mask. And we have to be honest about the difference. Let me pivot for a second, because I want to talk about why this hits so hard. Why this Megan and Klay thing hits so deep for so many black women, in particular. Because I see it in the comments. I see it in the Twitter threads. I see it in the TikToks where women are literally crying, not crying for themselves, crying for Megan, like Megan is their sister, their cousin, their best friend. And I get it. I get it on a human level. We attach ourselves to celebrities because celebrities are, whether we want to admit it or not, mirrors for the stories we tell ourselves about our own lives. Megan Thee Stallion stopped being just a rapper a long time ago. Megan Thee Stallion became a symbol. She became the embodiment of black female independence, of black female sexuality on her own terms, of black female resilience after going through one of the most public traumas any artist of her generation has gone through with the Tory Lanez situation. She became a flag. She became a banner. She became the thing women rally behind when they need to feel like one of us made it through the storm. So when Megan posts that Klay cheated, it's not just Megan getting cheated on. In the symbolic space of culture, every black woman who has been cheated on, every black woman who has been disrespected by a man who told her he loved her, every black woman who has held it down for a partner only to find out he was holding down somebody else on the side, gets transported into Megan's Instagram story. Megan is the avatar. Megan is the proxy. The pain you see online is not just for Megan. It's for the millions of women who saw themselves in Megan and now feel like they got cheated on by extension. I understand that. I respect that. That is real grief. That is real solidarity. That is real cultural processing. And I would never, ever tell a woman who feels that way that her feelings are stupid or invalid or extra. They are not. They are human. They are sacred. They are real. But here is the line. The line is the moment you take that legitimate grief and you point it at another innocent black woman who had nothing to do with it. The moment you take that legitimate solidarity and you weaponize it against a sister whose only crime was sharing a league with the man your favorite girl is mad at. The moment you take that legitimate processing and you turn it into a hunting party. That is where the symbol stops being protection and starts being predation. And if we are going to be a culture that talks about protecting black women all day, every day, on every platform, we have to be a culture that is honest about who we protect and who we sacrifice in the name of that protection. Because right now, the math is not matching. Right now, Lexie Brown is the bill. Lexie Brown is the bag. Lexie Brown is the woman holding the receipt for a meal she didn't order. And let me push this even further, because I want to be intellectually honest with you. There is a deeper question lurking under this whole story. The question is feminism, particularly the kind of online performative feminism that lives on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram, structurally capable of protecting all women? Or is it structurally designed to protect only the women who already have power, fame, and platforms? Because if I'm looking at the evidence, if I'm looking at how this Megan and Klay thing has played out, the answer is starting to look pretty grim. The answer is starting to look like online feminism is essentially a celebrity protection racket dressed up in the language of universal sisterhood. The answer is starting to look like the working-class black woman, the unknown black woman, the unfamous black woman, is invisible inside this movement unless her victimization happens to be useful to the platform of a famous woman. And that, my friends, is not feminism. That is fandom with a hashtag. Now somebody's gonna clip this and call me a misogynist. Somebody's gonna say I'm just hating on Megan. Somebody's gonna say I'm doing the most. Fine. Clip it. Run it. Send it to your group chat. I welcome the conversation. Because if my willingness to defend a black woman named Lexie Brown, who has no platform, no army, no PR team, no record label behind her, who is just out here trying to keep her name clean and her podcast alive, gets me labeled a misogynist, then maybe the word misogynist has lost all meaning. Maybe the word has been so weaponized, so flattened, so #ified, that it now means nothing more than anybody who refuses to agree with the mob. If that's where we are as a culture, we're in trouble. And the way out is not louder slogans. The way out is sharper thinking. The way out is the kind of analysis I am attempting to do right now, on this video, with you, in real time. Let me bring it back to the practical, because I don't want to leave you in the philosophy clouds. Let's talk about what this means materially for Lexie Brown going forward. The podcast, Full Circle, was pulling around 3 million downloads across the network. That is not nothing. That is a real audience. That is real ad money. That is a real career runway. With Mariah Rose stepping away, the podcast loses its biggest media voice, its biggest reach, and probably a significant chunk of its sponsor confidence. If the numbers dip, and they will dip, because that's what happens when you lose a co-host who was carrying the brand equity of the show, then the network has to make a business decision. And business decisions in podcasting are brutal. If the show falls below a certain threshold, the show gets shelved. And if the show gets shelved, the very real income that Lexie Brown was depending on to supplement a modest WNBA salary at 31 years old in a league that does not exactly bend over backwards for role players, that income disappears. That is the actual stake. That is what was lost. Not feelings. Not vibes. Money. Career. Future. And let's break down what 3 million downloads actually means in plain dollars, because I think people throw numbers around without understanding the math. In the podcast ad market, 3 million downloads across a network translates, depending on the CPM rates and the categories, into a real 5 to 6 figure ad payday split across the show, the network, and the talent. That is not yacht money. That is rent money. That is health insurance money. That is the kind of income that lets a 31-year-old WNBA player save for retirement so she does not become another tragic story of a former pro athlete going broke at 40. That is the kind of money that buys a former pro a soft landing into a second career. And the internet, the great defender of black women, just torched it. Not even on purpose. Just out of carelessness. Just out of bloodlust. Just out of a refusal to wait 24 hours before pulling the trigger on an accusation. And here is what really has me sideways. None of the stands, none of the Protect Black Women army, none of the Cry for Megan crowd is going to feel 1 ounce of personal responsibility for any of it. None of them are going to write the apology comment. None of them are going to fund the next phase of Lexie Brown's career to make up for what they vaporized. None of them are going to even acknowledge that they were wrong. Because that's the thing about mobs. Mobs don't apologize. Mobs disperse. Mobs find the next target. The same energy that was used to chase Lexie Brown off the timeline will be used next week to chase somebody else, and next month to chase somebody else after that, and by the time 26 is over, half the women you see online getting unjustly dragged will be black women whose only sin was being adjacent to a story that wasn't theirs. And I have to be real with you, because I have been online long enough to see this pattern play out over and over and over again. This is not the first time a black woman who is famous adjacent but not famous has been used as kindling for a famous black woman's heartbreak narrative. This is, like, the 8th time in 3 years. You can pull up the list yourself. Every time a top-tier black female celebrity drops a heartbreak post, the internet immediately starts hunting for a secondary black female villain to point at. And every time, that secondary villain turns out to be either completely innocent, partially innocent, or guilty of nothing more than existing in the same industry as the man in question. And every time, that secondary villain pays a real cost in real career capital. And every time, the army that did the damage moves on without paying restitution. The pattern is the problem. The pattern is the actual subject of this video. Megan and Klay are just the latest case study. The disease is older and bigger than them. And here is the dirty secret about this pattern. The pattern is not driven by love for black women. The pattern is driven by something much older and much uglier. The pattern is driven by jealousy, by competition, by the unspoken belief that there is only one slot at the top for a black woman in any given cultural moment, and any other black woman who threatens that slot must be torn down to keep the chosen one safe. That is not sisterhood. That is Hunger Games dressed in solidarity language. And the moment you understand that, the moment you really see it, you cannot unsee it. Every time a famous black woman gets hurt, the question online instantly becomes, which other black woman do we destroy to balance the scales? Not, which man do we hold accountable? Not, what systems failed her? Just, who else with 2 X chromosomes and melanin do we put in the wood chipper today to make our girl feel better? That is the question the algorithm asks. And the algorithm always finds an answer. The answer this week is Lexie Brown. The answer next week will be someone else. And until we name the pattern out loud, the pattern will keep eating us. Let me also say something to the brothers watching this video, because I see you in the comments too. Some of you are watching this and going, see, this is what I have been saying. Women are catty. Women tear each other down. Stop. Sit down. This is not your moment. This is not your I told you so. The point of this conversation is not to give men ammunition to dismiss women's solidarity wholesale. The point is to push women's solidarity to be more honest, more rigorous, more inclusive. The point is to demand a better version of the thing, not to throw the thing in the trash. Black men have their own house to clean. Black men have their own patterns of throwing each other under buses for clout, of refusing to defend each other in public, of choosing proximity to powerful men over loyalty to ordinary men. That is a whole different episode and we will get to it. But for today, stay in your lane. Today's mirror is for the Protect Black Women industrial complex. Tomorrow's mirror will be for the brothers. Everybody is gonna get checked. Don't worry. Nobody is leaving this conversation clean. So what do we do? What is the prescription? Because I don't want to be the guy who diagnoses the disease and then leaves you with no medicine. Here is the medicine. The medicine is simple, and it is uncomfortable, and it has 3 doses. Dose 1. When a celebrity drops a pain post on the internet, give yourself 24 hours before you take a public position. 24 hours. That's it. In that window, do not name names you have not been given. Do not chase unfollows. Do not draft fan fiction about who the side chick is. Just sit with the post. Read it 3 times. Let it breathe. Because 9 times out of 10, the internet's first guess about who the third party is in a celebrity scandal is wrong. And the receipts, when they actually drop, will tell their own story without your help. Dose 2. If you find out you piled onto an innocent person, the move is not to delete your comments and pretend it never happened. The move is to post a correction. Out loud. With the same energy you brought to the accusation. Because the damage you did with a viral tweet is not undone by a quiet deletion. The damage is only undone by an equally loud retraction. We do not have a culture of public apology right now. We have a culture of quiet retreat. And quiet retreat does not heal the reputation of the person you helped destroy. Dose 3. Build the muscle of protecting women you do not personally fan. This is the hardest one. Because protecting your favorite celebrity is easy. That is just stan culture wearing a moral disguise. Real protection is when you stand up for a woman whose work you have never bought, whose face you do not know, whose name you only learned today because she got dragged into something that wasn't hers. If your protection only applies to the people whose posters you have on your wall, your protection is fandom, not feminism. Get the muscle. Use the muscle. Lift the heavier weight. And to Lexie Brown specifically, because I imagine somebody might send her this video, I just want to say this. You did the bravest thing in this whole drama. You stood in front of the camera. You looked into the lens. You denied something you did not do. You did it alone. You did it with no army. You did it without the protection of a famous boyfriend or a famous best friend or a famous publicist swooping in to clean up the story for you. You stood on your own 2 feet and you spoke. And whether or not the internet ever gives you the apology you are owed, you did the right thing. And there are people watching, like me, who see it. There are people watching who know your name now, and know it for the right reasons, not the wrong ones. The internet has a short memory for villains it invented. The internet has an even shorter memory for the people it falsely accused. But the receipts of this moment are out here. The clips of you defending yourself are out here. And history, even internet history, eventually corrects itself when enough people refuse to let the lie become the official record. And to Mariah Rose, because she is also a victim of this even though nobody is calling her one. You did what you had to do for your safety and your business. Nobody can fault you for that. But I hope, in time, you find a way to extend a hand back to your former co-host. Because the thing about smear campaigns is that the smear is not the truth, and the people the smear chased apart deserve, when the dust settles, a chance to reconnect on the other side of the storm. I hope Full Circle, in some form, finds a way to come back. I hope women's sports media gets the platform it deserves. I hope the network that gave both of you a shot finds the courage to give it again. And to the so-called Protect Black Women Army, the last thing I will say to you is this. Look in the mirror. Honestly look. Because the version of protection you are running right now is not protection. It is a fan club with a slogan. Real protection is harder. Real protection is quieter. Real protection extends to women who do not boost your engagement, do not validate your favorite celebrity, do not fit neatly into your narrative. If you are not willing to do that work, then please, for the love of all things holy, stop using the phrase. Stop wearing it like a costume. Because every time you wear it loudly and then turn around and trample a Lexie Brown, you cheapen the phrase for every black woman who actually needs that protection in her real, non-internet, non-celebrity, regular human life. We could have done better here. We could still do better. And the next time, because there will be a next time, because there is always a next time, I want to see a different response. I want to see hesitation before accusation. I want to see receipts before pitchforks. I want to see the muscle of true sisterhood get exercised on behalf of a woman whose name nobody recognizes. Because that is the day the slogan finally becomes the substance. That is the day Protect Black Women stops being a hashtag and starts being a habit. So that is what I wanted to say. That is what nobody else seems to be saying. That is the side of the story the algorithm buried under 1,000 reaction videos about Megan and Klay. If you made it this far, I appreciate you for staying. I appreciate you for being the kind of viewer who can hear a take that goes against the grain and not immediately reach for the unsubscribe button. That is rare in this digital climate, and you having that capacity is what gives me hope that the conversation can actually shift. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where I'm right. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me what I missed. Tell me who you think is the actual villain of this whole saga, because I have my opinions and I want to hear yours. And if you have followers, if you have a platform, even a small one, share this. Not for me. For Lexie Brown. For Mariah Rose. For the next innocent woman the algorithm is about to fingerprint for a crime she did not commit. Hit the bell. Hit the like. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And I will see you on the next one, because trust me, the next one is going to be even messier. Peace.